My name is Donna Cosgrove Baker. I'm president and founder of Feral Cat Caretakers Coalition. And Lauren Laster is on our board of directors. She's vice president in charge of research development.
Right.
And we've been researching and doing TNR now for 12 years together.
Well, I think the researching and the developing has come along through the years. What we've started with is not what we've ended up with, and what we have now will not be what it is in the future. We keep fine-tuning things and making things easier for the caretakers, and the beneficiaries of that are all of the outside kitties.
And we're going to take this bin and turn it into a shelter for 2 cats. The same 25-gallon bin, roughneck Rubbermaid. All of the supplies that you see, including this, I got at Osh or any home improvement store. The first thing we do, the reflector material keeps their warmth in, keeps the cold out, which comes in the back because there's nothing back there to protect it. But we feel that it might also be comfortable in the warm weather because for some reason we find our cats in here in July. So maybe it has a dual purpose. So you don't have to take anything, so that if it gets dirty or you want to replace it, you just tuck everything in. The next thing you do is you buy a drawer. These are storage drawers and you just want to make sure when you get your drawer that it's a good fit. I have the measurements for the drawer on the instructions for a 25-gallon bin. Don't get a real tiny drawer, but get one that has a good fit. Okay. Then we measure our reflector material for the drawer. We don't have to put any tape in there. Also, sometimes you can turn it over if it gets a little soiled in some way. So it's good to be used on both sides. And then the drawer fits into the bin. And this will be a shelter for 2 cats. We also use the wood. We put the wood underneath the bin if we can, and also we extend it out at least a foot or more. Now this is the tarp. The tarp that we made for this was ordered online unless you can find an all-black tarp or a black and silver tarp at some of the home improvement stores. It's also, if you don't want to order it online, they have heavy-duty garbage bags that you could tape together and use in the same manner. They don't last quite as long and they're not quite as sturdy, but in a pinch, and if you were setting something up, you could do that. And here's the tarp. It's been cut and taped. The measurements are in your instructions, so you just get your piece of tarp, and you may have a smaller, you might have less, so you're going to have a little smaller flap here, or you might have more. What you will do is when you get the tarp permanently connected to either one, you come to the back and you take your duct tape and you tape it on the back. Now you have your shelter for 2. And the reason that we come out in our measurements, the measurements are very, very important. Because in the measurements I've instructed that there are so many inches you have to come out on either side of the bin, and so many inches you have to come out once the tarp hits the ground. Okay, this is probably 8 inches. And the reason for that is so that it gives the cats a place to escape from. They can escape from either end of the shelter. And this gets tucked under, or you can use a brick. I prefer tucking it under for the shelter because it just gives them a little more space. Now, when you place your shelter, you have to make sure that the shelter is placed in an area where the cats can get out both sides. If you can have bushes in the front, that's very good. Okay? But make sure there aren't a big thicket of bushes right next to this end, so that if they're going to try to escape on this end, they can't. And if you're not putting it up against a wall. Okay? So that's the most important thing when you're placing your shelters. Make sure that they can escape. If you don't have a lot of bushes and maybe you're just going to use camouflage material, you can turn the shelter around so that this will face a wall or a barrier of some kind. Just leave enough room if you're facing this to a wall so the cats can get out either side. And if it's a real wide open area, I would suggest turning the shelter around and facing a wall. In the damp and the cool weather, it's very good for the cats to get up off the damp ground. That's where they get their upper respiratory infections. If the fog is coming in, these are really like California shelters, but we fix like a little bed for them on the top so they can sleep up on the top. And you can do that in many ways. You can put a piece of fleece up there and get some tape and tape it down, or however way you want to do this. So you can have your little shelter on the top.